Well, very good afternoon, those of you joining us on the stream this evening. We're going to take the KingAir from Tatenhill down to Lannion and the northwest of France. Just in the middle of starting up the right-hand engine, we've got the ignition started there. We just have to put in the fuel, bringing it up, wait for then the N1 to get up to around 51% before the engine will be self-sustaining, and we'll keep it all going. We're streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and even on Twitter this afternoon, so feel free to use any one of the platforms, getting the best experience with HD, both on Twitch and on YouTube. So, fuel going in, we're just waiting on over 51%, which we have. Engine should be self-sustaining, and we'll switch off the starting motor. Running well, and now let's give it full fuel. That's not working too well there. Well, it's the engine has just cut out on me. Or has it? Let's have a look. It has. Okay, so let's try that again. We'll take the fuel and we'll switch it off. We'll start the engine one more time. You think you know Tatenhill, Fly UK? Well, I should hope so. I think you've landed there many a time. I came in today and we did a flight earlier on from Campbelltown on to Tatenhill, and the plane was going so fast and I got slightly distracted. Before I knew it, Tatenhill was underneath me and I had to do a quick left-hand down. A left-hand downwind, and it was, I believe it was runway 26, then I landed on. But racing the weather in today, as there was no instrument approach for me to come in. Lucky enough, got visual just at the very end, so I was able to make a visual approach in. Other than that, it was off the Birmingham. Okay, let's have a look, see what happened to the engine. So we got 17.6% in that time. Let's put in the fuel, and let's watch it come up to over 52%. Then we'll give it full fuel, and let's hope this time everything will be all right. Must have got a hot start or a hung start the last time. Okay, so this 51%. The ignition, the assist starter should be off. Now the engine's holding, and let's give it full fuel. And there we go. It's stabilizing. Excellent. Let's try it again. For engine number 1. Yeah, nice. So we have 17%, that's right. We put the fuel in. Watching it increase and past 51% before we switch the ignition starter off. Over 51%. Starter off. Engines holding. And putting in full fuel. Excellent. Super. So the only thing to do now is switching on a few of the radio nav aids, and we put the first waypoint alternators on both engines. And what we have here, few lights. It is getting a little bit dark. Probably will be late when we're landing there, as in dark, I should say. So we'll use all lights available. And tail floodlight is on. Okay, super. Last thing to do is, just from the flight plan perspective, we'll just show. We have a flight plan here. It's a low airways. Route. So from Tatenhill all the way down, and that just brings us up just to the very northwest there one of the airfields there. There is an NDB approach, so we may have to use that later on if we don't become visual. But looking from Tatenhill direct to a point called Octad, and just for the sake of getting the flight going, we'll put Octad as the first GPS point within the nav aid, and then we'll do the rest in the air. So, looking at the flight plan and the active flight plan, at the origin is EGBM, and we'll enter that. And the destination is LF40. So LF40, alpha destination, LF or O. Enter there. LF40, Lannion, and add an en route waypoint. And we did say Octad was going to be the first one on the flight plan. Let's just have a look at that. Whoops. Let's get rid of that. And the first OKTAD. So OKTAD. Octad, enter. So Tatenhill, Octad, and then Octad we'll put in some more en route waypoints. Excellent. So we're ready to go. Just releasing the parking brake here, and we'll use the reverse thrusters this evening to get out. We don't have any pushback truck available to us, so just use the reverses. And let's bring it to the tail to the right. Okay. We'll just stop it right there. Okay, let's set the parking brake. So we've got a master warning, and what is that? It is the parking brake is set. That's understood. Cancel that. Okay, so the first point is basically straight off the runway, and we'll engage then the autopilot. Going up to altitude of 5,000 feet, so we might see a nice little bit of scenery en route today. Actually, the initial one we'll just go to 4,000. Just see, can we see a little bit of nice scenery en route? Anybody who's familiar with the area, hopefully you might see one or two images of familiar places around. Regards to the burn of the KingAir, that is actually, I'm not quite sure, but what I can tell you is the fuel that we have on board today is plenty. Now I've done a flight on this before from Reykjavik as far as Dublin, and there was no problem there. That was over like 2.5 hours, 3 hours of flying. We're only going to be flying for an hour. However, we'll take a little note. Since you've asked the question, we'll take a little note. We're just under, I think it's 1,270 kilos each side there. And we'll see what the flight time is, and we'll see how much we burn en route. Just change the temperature now into Celsius. 1 degree out there. Nice cold evening. Okay, let's get going. So flaps are deployed. So takeoff. Taxiing out. So it's clear on the left on the approach, and it's clear on the right. There we go. And takeoff. Setting power about 90%. Torque, T's, P's, all in the green. Airspeed live. $80 knots. And rotate. Pitch about just so under 10 degrees. Gear up. All-in pilot engaged. We're going to select... Yaw damper's also on. We're going to select autopilot. We're also going to select flight level change. So we're going to hold basically 138 knots, and it will climb to altitude of 4,000 feet at 138 knots. So that's the speed. FLC is you select the speed and it will pitch to that speed and give you a climb rate accordant. So now just to switch on the GPS, going for map back out. Let's just make sure we have the correct indications. So the VOR 1, we need the CDI source as GPS. So there's the GPS. And we put nav 1 on and nav 2 on should we need them later on. Okay, so now if we go to hit navigation, and the airplane should now go to straighten back up onto the red line that's on the map there, the red line, and once it joins that, it'll be heading towards Octad. Climb to an altitude of 4,000 feet. So what have we got here? Capable aircraft. It is indeed, and the engine noise isn't loud at all. No, it shouldn't be. I've got to actually turn down so you can hear me or a little bit of background music, keep you more entertained than just the drone of 2 turboprop engines. So 1 to go. Let's have a little look outside. Look at the evening. Fly UK, I know this is your area. Does that all look fairly familiar? That's to the left off runway 26. There we go. Okay, let's see how we're doing now. We should be approaching 4,000 feet, which we are, and the airplane's accelerating. Flaps are up. So now we picked a direct course from Tatenhill to Octad. As we can see on both the maps here, the aircraft is on an intercept course now to join the red line. And we can also see here on the indicator that it's as that line comes in to join up and make it one complete line, the aircraft is now turning to pick up that course, and then we should be going direct to Octam. So we're doing well. We are now on track. It does say up here Octad is bearing 206. That looks very reasonable. It's a distance of just under 60 nautical miles, and we're estimating over 15 minutes to get there. So let's just settle down, and then we'll put in some more of the GPS waypoints, and we can sit back for the flight then. So bringing back the fuel to condition to midway, and course on the levers. That should bring the noise down even further. And I'm just going to increase the N1 to about 95%. And now we're cruising. So having a look at the next point after Octad, it's ITJON. So let's get that in on the GPS. So flight plan, let's call up the active wave plan. ITJON. So add an en route waypoint. ITJON. Enter. So there we go. After Itjon, it's Lamash. Lima Alpha Mike Alpha Tango. Lima Alpha Mike Alpha Tango. And one or two more in there. EXJET XJet. EXJET and enter. And take another one, which will be Notro, NOTRO. N-O-T or O. N-O-T or O. Yeah, and enter. S-K-E-S-O. S-K-E-S-O. Enter. Nearly there, and that takes us down into LF4O. So we put that away for now, and let's have a look at the plan. And there it is. This is all the points. Takes us all down to the north of France. So now we can sit back and enjoy the flight. Have a little look out. So around Tatenhill there, Bitchfield Reservoir and Rugley and Litchfield. Okay, very good. Did know that then. I'm not too familiar with the area. It was my first time flying in there today. As I said, just barely made it earlier on when the visibility was actually starting to close in. Other than that, I was gone to Birmingham. Cruise speed is not bad with the KingAir. You can actually get up to 240 knots. Obviously, you'd be burning a little bit more fuel. The music just came on there. Obviously, you'd be burning a little bit more fuel at 240 knots. However, it sits very well there in the cruise. 4,000 feet is going to be fine, I think. Let's just have a little look on the chart. We look at the grid moors. So basically, I'm looking at my safety altitudes from here. I'll come out a little bit. We can see along our track here, we're in a box. It started off in Tatenhill, but in a box of 2 and a 6. So with 3,600 feet is our safety altitude. 3,700 feet along here. Into the next box down here, 3,700 feet. There is a little smidgen there of 4,800 feet, but we're nearly parallel on that line there. And takes us down to 3,400. And then all the way down to 3,500. So safely, the 4,000 feet, plus what's still visual at the moment, will be a fair altitude. So we could just have a little look around and see can we spot anything on the ground. It looks like we'd be heading down towards Bristol and that direction. So I get a nice view of the estuary, providing it's still bright when we get there. So having a look at everything now. Fuel is good. 4 degrees. Have a little bit of a weather inversion outside. Engine torque, temperatures, and prop is all looking good. M1's there sitting at just 92%. So it's happy out. Very nice looking KingAir this afternoon, paying homage to Fly UK on the ridge. Oh, fantastic. That looks a fantastic view. Unfortunately, we don't have any cabin crew with us this evening. No, we're positioning empty down. I don't have Dan the co-pilot with me either. He's off doing other things this afternoon. He's leaving me on my own. Sure, no doubt. Maybe later on we might even get a flight in on the 320. If anybody's looking, you probably know over on Fly UK channel we do dual cockpit most days. I won't say most days of the week, but for some days of the week we'll do a dual cockpit flight. Dan has a great channel going on over there, many followers, and also looking at patrons to support the channel. It's a very good cause. There's a lot of work that goes into it and gives great entertainment in the afternoons. So don't forget that if you get a chance to pop over there, give it a like and a follow, and guarantee we'll you come and join us some night and watch us struggling through some of the flights. But the main thing is we'll always get there. Okay, just stepping out of the cockpit for a few moments. I'll be back shortly. And hello, I'm back. So how are we getting on? Okay, we're coming up to Point Octad, and we should be then automatically change it over to Ition. Just keep an eye on the changeover. Good airmanship at this point is to at least bring the heading around, and we'll just default it to heading in case something goes wrong with the changeover to points, and we don't just drift off into the distance. So 4 nautical miles to Octad. Just straight ahead. We'll just keep an eye out on the point changeover. Make sure that it does go to the correct point. And we'll see it down here on the GPS. And there we go. So nicely on, turning on course to Icheon. And that is 27 nautical miles away, a bearing 219. 219 is reasonable. Let's bring the heading around just to match the direction we're going. Engines all in the green. Torque, temperatures, and prop. 95, 92.4%, 92.6%, that's all reasonable. Fuel is good. And temperature outside is 4 degrees, there should be no icing. So while we have a little bit of time, let's have a look at what we expect on the approach going down into Lannion. So an NDB for runway 29. There's a NORNAV approach and an NDB approach. So I don't think we can actually tune the NDB. What we can do is we can put the Lima November up on the GPS, and from there we'll track it inbound of a course of 289. So we can do that, and then from there, once we reach the point of the Lima November, how are we going to do this? Let's have a little think about this. From the Lima November, so we'll step down actually, right? Yeah, we'll come in at 2,400 feet to the Lima November, and we'll go down at 3 degrees. Now 3 degrees, we don't have a flight path angle instrument on this aircraft. However, let's convert that into feet per minute. So if I'm flying at 140 knots, we should be looking at 743 feet a minute. So if I said between 120 and 140 is 130, and halfway between 337 and 743 is approximately 700 feet a minute. So 130 knots, 700 feet a minute from the point of the NDB, which is 6.5 miles, brings us down, and our MDA this afternoon is going to be 790 feet on the Barrow reference. We do need 2,300 meters or visibility. And if we do have to go around it, straight ahead to 800 feet with a right hand turn, maximum 195 knots, and we track that back to the Lima November. So that'll be another, go back to the point where we started. Effectively, we can make another approach in there. So let's we'll have a little look at that further on. So the Lima November, let's get this in on the GPS. Well, let's have a look at LFRO. No. Well, let's have a look at our approaches. So go back to the map. Procedures. On the arrival. LFRO. It's not programmed in, so we can't actually do it. We can't do it according to using the GPS, so we have to actually make this one up as we go along. Right, interesting. Another challenge. So nav 1, nav 2, nav 1 off. Back to nav 1. Go back to our flight plan. Let's go to the GPS. And it's the Lima November. Let's see, can we find that as an en route waypoint? Lima November. Enter. Okay, so it's about, well, it ain't 3,000 miles away. 176 nautical miles away looks very reasonable. And what is the frequency of that? Does it give it to us? No. Okay, so from Sesco to the Lima November, and then we'll, as we said, we'll look at the plate and track that course in and keep with the vertical profile. Okay. So another check on the engines. Looks good. Everything in the green from the torque, temperatures and props. The M1s is up at 93%. Fuel is good. Temperature outside is 4 degrees. I suppose now would be a good time to start getting a little bit of mood lighting on. Have a look at the panels there. All those lights are on nicely. Let's bring up the brightness in the cockpit a little bit. I do believe this is the one for it. There we go. No. That looks okay for now. Very nice evening out there. It is a cool evening. Great graphics here from Microsoft Flight Simulator. The way the sun is depicted and the way it sets in the west there. Looking down the cabin, we're flying an empty aircraft this afternoon. We've no passengers on board. Anybody who joins the stream, feel free to throw in a few questions, even on the chat. And don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and follow. Anytime we go live, you get a notification. And also check out Fly UK's channel on TikTok and on Twitch, YouTube. Also, I believe we're starting to now broadcast, or so to say, stream on Facebook also. So any platform of your choice. Best viewing is on YouTube with the HD. Get some great graphics and visibility as to what's going on in the cockpit. So see, we just passed the waypoint. We've picked up a Lamat. It's bearing 188 at 8.7 nautical miles. Again, we'll bring the heading around just for airmanship. Keep it in the direction that we should be going. Some nice yacht there. Oh, look at this. He's parked and going through the land. That's a first. If I'm not mistaken, that could be Southend. Oh no, it's not Southend. That is. Let's have a little look. Let's see what the airfield over is on our right hand side. Not quite sure. Let's have a look on the map. So we are here, and that airport is this one here, Cardiff, just past Cardiff Airport on our right hand side. Let's have a look. Okay, let's have a look at these lights before it does get dark and we don't know, we can't see what we're doing. Cockpit displays. Let's have a look. I'm not sure whether those lights are on or not. We'll have to wait till it gets a little bit darker. Oh, hold on. That's for the co-pilot, overhead co-pilot, overhead floodlight. Aha, there we go. Well, that should keep us okay. And displays, instrument panel. Okay. I actually do think those little underneath floodlights are on. We'll see if it gets a little bit darker. So quick look at the systems, engines, torque prop and the N1 there just over 93%. Looks pretty good. Fuel is good. No need to transfer fuel. Engine auto ignition, switch that off. And pitot heats are all on. So we're in great shape. Keep going. So we just changed your bar reference there. As you can see the speed creeping up slightly, but as soon as we get to 4,000 feet now, that'll just come back to where it was there. I think it was about 225 knots. The flight looks like it's just going to be under 1 hour, according to the GPS. Let me have a look now. If we get... making the best guesstimate from Tatenhill all the way down to where we're going. I'd say we've approximately another 25 minutes to run. It takes a lot longer than the PA-28. Well, bearing in mind that your PA-28 is probably doing around 100 knots. We are doing around 231 knots. So yeah, it's over double the speed. So it certainly would. I'd certainly expect it to take a hell of a lot longer, alright. However, just while we're here, and we're in the turboprop, I do understand how well an Airbus 320 can handle a single engine. I'm wondering how well the KingAir can handle a single engine. So let's do this nice and slowly. I'm going to bring back the power on the left engine, and providing everything's going all well, we'll actually bring it to a shutdown and a mid-air restart. So let's do this nice and slowly. Bringing back thrust lever number 1. Okay, so let's see how this handles it now. We still have the N2 up at 93.7%. We'll just bring it a little bit further up on engine number 2. So we have basically the engine on the left is at idle power, and it's holding there. Just it's not too bad there. I'm expecting that to settle down around 170 knots. However, it probably will do a hell of a lot better if we feather the engine. So first of all, props, fuels, and now we're going to feather engine number 1. So now that the engine is feathered, it's actually producing no thrust on the left hand side. We're still holding 187 knots. And now for the fuel cutoff. So shortly we should see engine number 1 slowing down to a standstill. Okay, the master caution is basically saying oil pressure, which is expected in that engine. Okay, so I'm going to clear that, and we'd switch off the generator also on the left engine because it's off. So left generator off, and that's also understood. So oil pressure and left generator are both off. We are now flying single engine in the KingAir. As we can see, if you look at the artificial horizon, it's slightly leaning about 2 to 3 degrees into the right bank, just to keep the engine, just to keep the plane going in a straight line. We can also see, if we look very carefully, there's a little slip there from the triangle, and that slip is indicating that we need a little bit of right rudder. However, the way we can do it in the KingAir is we can trim it a little bit to the right. So if I just trim it a fraction to the right, and let's see how that affects it. No effect on it at the moment. So let's do a little bit more. And now we can see that they're coming into a line. So the aircraft is flying straight. The bank that was on from about 2 to 3 degrees is gone. And the aircraft is flying efficiently now. Still holding around 179, 178 knots. The engine on the left is actually windmilling. So there's no power being produced. Looking at the instrument panel, we can see that it is going at 7.5% N1. That's because it's just windmilling through the air. But there's the temperatures of the engine's gone down and the torque has gone down. It is producing no thrust. And the PA-28, you have a rudder trim. That's right. Yes, I did fly the PA-28 for over, I think it was about 140, 150 hours. There was a rudder trim on it as well, and also on the complex. I think it was the Arrow that we flew, and that had also a rudder trim on it. It's actually quite handy. Now, bearing in mind that those aircraft are just single engine, and that is just to take off the small forces. Once you have one engine failed on a twin engine, the force is quite large on the rudder, so it is really necessary to have a rudder trim for comfort, especially if you're going to be flying a little bit, a little bit of, say, over, another 20, 30, 40 minutes on single engine. You certainly don't want to be keeping that pressure on your foot, so it is quite important to have it. So let's just see, we're doing okay. It's the N1 is not coming down below 7.5% on the N1. So it's windmilling quite well out there at the moment. It's just that is the air pushing that blade around. Whereas on the right hand side, we actually have power being, that's the only blade that is actually flying the aircraft. So it's doing quite well. Now, let's try the magic of starting the engine back up properly. So, what we're going to be looking for is, first of all, we will switch on the ignition. And the ignition then will spool the engine up towards 17%. Once that's up, we will then put the fuel in. We look for over 51%. And then we'll switch off the ignition. Watch the engine is actually holding on its own. We'll increase the fuel flow into it and then bring the power back up and get back to normal flying. So before we do that, what would be the standard practice to carry on as normal, or in real life would you declare a pan call? Very good question. This is a situation where you wouldn't be continuing on with one engine. Once you have one engine failed, if you effectively think of using the other engine to bring you safely to the closest airport. It's not great airmanship to be continuing on one engine. Now, mind you, you could, but it's not recommended, because you don't know what made that engine fail. Is it a fuel problem and that engine just suffered before the other one? Or what is this? You just don't know. So yeah, the commercial thing, the sensible thing, the good airmanship thing would be to bring the aircraft to the ground to the closest suitable airport with the remaining engine. Right, so let's start up get the startup procedure going. So first of all, let's switch on the left ignition. So that's on, and that's understood. Okay. So we'll keep an eye out looking for 17% on N1, and we can see it there. We've got 17%. Let's bring in, first of all, actually, let's bring up the blade define. Now bring on the fuel. Now watch for 51%. So the engine is lighting up. And to make sure that that engine is actually holding on its own, we'll switch off the starter assistance, which is down here. Are we still holding 51%? Actually, it's gone up to 72, which it looks about right. Put the fuel in all the way. The engines, the M1 has increased a little bit, which is expected. And now let's bring up the thrust lever. And remember, we put the engine number 2 thrust lever forward, so we'll bring that one back a little bit. And looking at the N1s, we've about 92.6, 92.4%. All the torque, temperatures and props is all in the green, and we have our engine back. Just like that. So now we did also adjust the rudder trim, because if we look down here we can see that the trim is way out, and we need to bring it back to 0, get the plane to fly efficiently. So we're bringing the trim back to 0. There we go. And let's watch it increase in speed. So the next point, we are coming up to Notro. And after Notro, we will go down to Sesco. Sesco then onto the Lima November. So clearly leaving the UK behind us now, heading into the northwest of France. And now we are on routing to Sesco, 35 nautical miles away. Getting there in 9 minutes. Let's have a look at the map where we are. Sesco, and then Sesco on to Sesco then onto Lannion. Let's keep that in view. There we go. Oh, one thing I did forget, and the instrument panel should tell me up here now. If I look at the external power, how much power is coming in from the external cart, and it should be 0, which is correct because we're in the air. Now from the center, we're looking at 28 volts DC. The left generator, 0 volts, because we never switched back on the left alternator. And if we look at the right one, the right engine's alternator is the only one charging the electrical system, charging the batteries and keeping the electrical system supplied. So just in case the right alternator fails, we should also put back on the left engine alternator. Let's have a look. And down here, that one, the right is on, the left is off, and that's the battery. So let's switch it back on. Now let's double check. Do we have power coming from the left alternator? And we do. From the left gen, we've got just 28 volts. And from the batteries, should be sitting at 22 volts, and that is all correct. So we're back to normal. It wouldn't have been very pleasant now if we had the right generator fail in there. I'm wondering why are we not getting power from the other one, because we just basically never switched it back on. So the point of the story is, don't switch off your engine in mid-flight. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not what you want to be doing. We do these things on the channel so you don't have to do them. .5 degrees outside, getting a little bit warmer. It's not looking promising for a visual approach later on. Hopefully that'll change. Now, I haven't found out exactly how to tune the NDB in on this aircraft here. So, let me have a look around. Comms, nav. Now, we can tune VORs, but it's not giving me an option to tune NDBs, and that's ideally what we need for the NDB approach on the far side, even though we're going to be making it up as we go along and getting a good point of reference. It's not something that you would actually do in the real world. It's definitely a no-no. But for tonight's sim, we can certainly work with it. That's for sure. That does look like a thin layer of cloud out there. Maybe when we get down to 2,000 feet later on, we might have visibility of the airfield and we do a visual approach to land. So when we do land, where can we park? Let's have a little look. Okay, so landing on runway 29, it's obviously there's only one entrance and one exit, so the control tower, we'll have to backtrack towards getting off taxiway November and then parking there just up in front of the tower. So there's also southern apron here. I'd imagine that could be for military, so they probably wouldn't be too happy if we went over there. So taxiway Sierra 102 is parked south is limited to aircraft with wingspan less than 15 meters. That's us. We can do that. Taxiway north aviation hangars is limited to aircraft with wingspan less than 15 meters. Oh, okay. Taxiway Sierra 3 is unusable at night. So Sierra 3 is down here. Is there anything else that we can no charts for reference? Taxiing. Let's have a look. That's all we have. Okay. So just looking at the chart here for runway 11, there's a note of 1 there. Activate the lights on 118.4 when Lannion information is inoperable. So 118.4 comms, when I'm sure we hit that transmit about 5 times and activate the lights if it's not working. The high intensity runway lights we do have, there's note 2 there, mandatory for non-precision approach and landing at night. So we definitely need the PAPIs and the OVR. Sorry, there's no information on that there. Width is a 45 meter runway, so nice and wide. And the threshold from landing over the threshold, we're looking at for runway 29, 4,800 meters in total available to us. Okay. Runway in total 5,256 feet. Plenty for this aircraft. This is for IF4 departure, so we're hopefully we'll be sitting down here for the night. So 118.4 is the frequency that we may need to activate the lights later on. So let's put that in 118.4. Cancel map. Com frequency 118.4 and transfer that in. So basically the way these lights work, when the information is not working and they say that they activate the lights by your communication system. They've given us a frequency tonight of 118.4. We have tuned that in. We can actually see it's the active frequency there on COM 1. And what happens basically is when you approach the airfield, most airfields is that you click your comms, your transmit button, I should say, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the system actually picks up those 5 transmissions, 5 quick short bursts, knowing that you want to switch on the lights, and the airfield lights come on automatically. It's a very clever system. It's very useful. There's many of airfield over in the USA that use that system at night time, where they wouldn't have it necessarily manned by the control tower. So very useful if you really need to. And actually sometimes the frequency is very much the same in all of the airfields. If you're in a close proximity of many airfields and you click it, they all light up together. It's quite impressive. Okay, we can see the sun's gone down over the horizon. Don't see any more boats in the water. Okay, so now we are heading to our point to Lima, November. It's 68 nautical miles away. And that's the initial approach fix for us. So the fact that we're sort of making this up and using good airmanship, once we descend down to 2,600 feet, I think as we get closer to that beacon, we will go on to heading and select a heading about maybe 10 degrees to the left. And as we approach the beacon and get it into the course of the runway, so the course of the runway is, let's have a look, approach NDB 29. The course of the runway is inbound 289. Once we get the course, we'll come down here to this side of the beacon, and once it's approximately 289, we'll turn inbound, fly over it, and we'll measure 6.5 nautical miles away from the airport. We'll start our descent, and we'll descend down at 3 degrees. And as I said, how we calculate 3 degrees by flying at 130 knots and at 700 feet a minute. And we may have to switch on the lights, so we're fairly well set up. Again, this is not a procedure that the way you would do the procedure, an NDB procedure in real life, and this is just made up for the flight sim. In real life, if we're approaching the airport here and we had got the equipment on our airplane to actually tune in the NDB, effectively we cannot land. There is an other option here at this airport for an ORNAV approach. However, we cannot tonight select the ORNAV approach. Maybe I missed it. Let's have a look one more time. Destination, no. That's destination, no. And let's see, can we get procedures for the arrival. LF40, can we select the runway? No. Arrival, no. So there's nothing in the database here that will allow us to do an ORNAV approach or an NDB approach or any kind of approach into the airfield. So we're just going to have to go with the way that we briefed it earlier on, by going just a little bit to the left of the beacon, turning right when it's 289, and inbound starting our descent at 3 degrees, 130 knots, 700 feet a minute rate of descent. And just to remind you, on the channel Fly UK, don't forget to look those up also on YouTube and Twitch, and also especially on TikTok. A huge following on TikTok he has. We do a dual cockpit, shared cockpit on the Airbus 320 from A to B. We've done flights over in the Caribbean, around UK and around Europe. So feel free to tune in to those, and if you hit the subscribe and the like button on that, you'll also get notified once we go live. No. So the north of France just coming into view through the cloud there. You can just barely see the coastline. And we don't have too far to go in off the coastline. Let's have a look at the map and see can we find a safer altitude that we can descend to today where we are. Okay, so where is the aircraft? Further on down here. So in this segment here we can it doesn't actually give us a safety altitude, but we're just coming in off the coast there and we're out over the water, and we can see that 1,700 feet, 2,000 feet. So if we actually safely descend to 2,600 feet, which is the commencement height of the procedure. Sorry, 2,400 feet is the commencement height of the procedure for the NDB. And we're going to go straight in, and we're not actually going to go over the NDB because we can't actually tune her in. So 2,400 feet, let's descend to that. So to do that, we are currently have an altitude set, we are 4,000 feet, our altitude selected 4,000 feet. So let's wind it down by using the altitude button and keeping an eye on the altitude, descending till we select 2,400 feet. Now, in the KingAir, by using flight level change, this is all to do with speed, okay? We won't touch the thrust levers at this moment in time. Once we hit flight level change, FLC, right up here we should get a reference speed, and it's going to be the speed that the aircraft is currently at. So we're expecting 222 to come up. So press FLC, 222. So the aircraft will descend at that speed. However, we've a lot of power on. The only way to get it to descend at that speed is to take some power off, so the aircraft will dive nose down to try and maintain 222 knots. There's also another way we can do it. We can go the opposite way. We can increase the speed here, don't add any more power, and the only way the aircraft can accelerate to that speed is to pitch the nose down. It won't go down past 2,400 feet. It'll capture that altitude and everything will come back in and settle. So let's try that. Okay. We'll do it, or we could use VS to actually say we want to go down at 500 feet a minute and select VS mode. So we're going to use flight level change mode. 222 knots is selected, but let's increase that to 240 knots. We want the aircraft to descend at 240 knots. So we're not adding power, so the aircraft needs to pitch the nose down to try and accelerate to 240 knots, and in doing so we can actually descend. So as it comes to 240 knots, it's going to hold that just by the power that it has and the pitch of the nose that it has, and just accept whatever rate of descent that we get. Now once we approach 2,400 feet, or start getting into the captured area of it, the speed here will disappear. So in other words, it's not trying to hold that speed anymore. It's just trying to capture the altitude, and then it will trickle back to whatever speed it was at, because we have not touched the power settings. The engines are all good, torque is, temperatures and props is all in the green. So here we go, approaching 2,600 feet. Watch for the 240 knots to disappear. Oh, sorry, 2,400 feet, I should say. I think it's within 200 feet. Oh, 300 feet. There we go. The 240 knots is now disappeared. The airplane is starting to pitch back up, going towards level. It's slowing down its rate of descent. And we can see the 2,400 is capturing. And effectively, it's captured it. It will not let it go down past that. And we can see the speed will just trickle back to where it was. So that's one way of descending with the KingAir. And the other way is obviously don't touch anything by just, you can select the flight level change, reduce the thrust levers. Once you take the power on, the only way it's going to get speed is if it dives. So that's another way. And we can also just use plain VS. But we're using the VS mode, you got to watch the speed. The speed can actually just race off into the barber's pole if you don't make any adjustments to the N1. So that beacon that we're going to be making our approach from is 21 nautical miles away. So when we're approximately around 10 nautical miles away, we'll start configuring by getting the speed back down towards 130 knots with flaps 2 gear down. And we did say we'd pick up a slight left-hand turn heading. So if we look now, we can see the heading that we're doing is 188. The course is 190. So according to that information, we may have a slight crosswind off the nose from the left-hand side. We can actually put that up. We have an instrument in here that, whoops, it's the wrong one. If we just go here and go to more, wind vector, switch on the speed and direction. And there we go. It is coming from the left-hand side and it's at 10 knots. So we're about 2 degrees to the left of the actual course that we're tracking over the ground, just to maintain that, where it's compensating for the wind. Okay. So welcome to the north of France. I actually think that could be the airfield just over there to the left-hand side. Oh, sorry, to the right-hand side. No. Disregard. I'm starting to see things now. Just follow my instruments and they'll take me all the way in. So before we get to the beacon, it's 14 nautical miles away. I did say we're going to go on to heading, so let's take up a sensible heading from our course at this moment in time. How about we go to a heading of south? So to change from GPS navigation, let's press heading on the autopilot. Now the airplane will go and track the blue bug. So while we're doing that, let's start slowing it down and let's get it into an approach configuration. We'll do that in about 3-4 nautical miles. Again, this is something that this is not an approved instrument procedure that we're doing here tonight, and this is not something that you would actually do in the real world. However, we're just using it to make an approximate estimation of where the airfield is to land. In the real world, you will not be going in here without an ADF, and we don't have a tunable one in here. That maybe there is, but I haven't learned how to do it. If anybody knows, just stick it into the comments and I'll pick it up at a later date. I'd be very grateful. So at 10 nautical miles away, let's start bringing back the speed by just reducing the thrust levers. And now we see the speed washing off nicely. We want to be getting down to 130 knots for the approach. So I'm just going to cheat a little bit here by using the GPS just to point to where that runway is, and we did say it's going to be a course of 289, so nearly 290. I'm just going to keep going direct to the point. I'll show you this as a little cheat. If we take the point of the LN, okay, there's LN, press LN and go direct to. Okay, now I hit done, go back to flight plan and hit direct to, activate the LN. Now see the way it's pointing to the LN. I'm going to keep doing that until it gets all the way around to 290 degrees, and then I know I'm going inbound for that. It's just a little way of using the instruments that I have in Flight Sim. This would not be legal in the real world, but it's certainly given us a good indication as to where the airfield is, and we can line up on it. And now do direct to the LN again. Direct LN. And it's only here. So still pointing out here. We need to see that pointer all the way around here to 280 or 290. And then we'll turn directly in towards that. Let's bring the heading over a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Give it a good intercept. So direct to the LN, let's see how much is adjusted this time. So it's coming around, and when we get around 290, we'll turn. I don't see the airfield visually there at the moment. Let's put the gear down now. Direct. Direct to LN. That's coming right around now. So let's get flap 1 out. We need to get a target speed down to 130 knots. And let's keep on top of that. We're the direct to the LN. Okay, we're nearly there. So if we actually start turning around now, we'll meet the heading around 290. So we'll adjust it left and right when we go in as we get closer. Flight plan, direct to LN. There we go. We're nearly actually lined up with the runway now. We did say we have... Oh, this is the runway in front of us. Excellent. There we go. Our little cheat worked tonight. So, config full. And we'll start our descent. So we did say we need to be going down at approximately VS 700 feet a minute. Oops. VS... No, that's not working. Okay, so let's just do what we normally do, is disconnect the autopilot. And let's hand fly it. So gear down, flaps. Flaps is good. T's and P's are all in the green. And we have the torque and the fuel up on full. Excellent. So a visual. Okay, did say in the notes that we do need the pappies. I don't see the pappies on there tonight. Maybe if we just do the transmitting, maybe that'll work. So we did that 5 times, and nope, they haven't turned any extra lights on. Okay, so we are landing. Checks, continue. Okay, again the touchdown zone. And welcome to Lannion. Never been here before, so let's go and have a little look. Let's turn it around. Ooh, squeaky. We need to get the engineer to have a look at those squeaky wheels. So we park in at the terminal. Okay. I think there's a marshaller over there. I think there is. So we'll go to the right and let's see, do we have a marshaller there? Okay, I don't see him. Let's have a look to the right. Is there a marshal over there? No. I don't see any marshals. Okay, we'll continue on. I'm going to park over here. We just park behind this guy and shut down. Okay, let's move a bit more. Okay, we'll leave it here and we'll set the parking brake. Brake is set. So alternator off for engine to the right, alternator off for the left. They're all understood. Feather the engines. And engine 1 off, engine 2 off. We'll switch off the middle screen. Okay, continue. And make sure the engines are actually shutting off. That's understood. Stopped and stopped. We are safe. So strobes, beacon, nav lights, ice, taxi, landing, all off. Pitot, de-icing, all off. Off. And avionics off. There we go. Welcome to Lannion. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. I will pick them up later on. And also, don't forget to have a look at Fly UK, where we do a Airbus 320 flight dual cockpit. We have some good fun along the way in those. Don't forget, if you do like this channel and you do come across it, feel free to share it, give it a like, subscribe, so you know when we actually activate and get into the cockpit, and you will be notified for boarding. But for now this evening, thank you very much and good night.